Kia ora and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be talking about how to design a tiny house, and I'm going to go over 3 tips that I think are really important when you're designing a tiny house. So the first tip is that you need to know the rules. You need to know what your design limitations are. And in New Zealand, for a tiny house to be legal, it needs to be able to be towable on the road, which means there are certain dimensions that it needs to fit within in order to get a warrant of fitness, and I'm going to design to that today. But wherever you are in the world, there will be certain restrictions that you have to comply with in order to have a legitimate tiny house. So in New Zealand, the maximum external width of any trailer is 2.5 metres. So mass under 3.5 tonne. And the maximum height is 4.3 metres from the ground. The tiny house should be less than 8 metres long and fit under all of these dimensions in order to get a warrant of fitness, but less than 8 metres long so that it can be under the weight restriction. Right, so let's do a wee design. Let's say someone wants a batch, or an extra dwelling, a sleep out. They're wanting a wee sleep out on their property, self-contained sleep out. So it may not necessarily be for full-time use, but it could be for full-time use. And they want it to be movable so that they could one day turn into a batch. Let's go with something like that. I'm going to make it 6 metres long. I'm going to make it 2.4 metres wide. And the reason for that is so that you've got a bit of room to meet that 2.5 restriction, because things like door handles and windows and stuff like that stick out a little bit, and the mechanic will measure and see if anything's sticking out past the point they're measuring, and if it does, they won't give you a warrant of fitness. So this is guaranteed basically to be under the weight restriction, which is the one that a lot of people stress about, and it fits all the other dimensions. So the second tip is about how to try and make a tiny house feel bigger, how to make the space more spacious. Tiny houses, if we look at the shape of them, they are very long and very narrow. So people will often put a bathroom at one end and then put a kitchen in here. And so what that does is it gives you a really nice big kitchen, and it gives you an open space over here living. But it means that you've made this area here very small and very narrow. It works as a kitchen, but it's not a very nice space together with the living. If someone wants to go from the living to the bathroom, they have to go right through the kitchen. You want to put things across the tiny house so that you're not using the length. So you put the bathroom at one end, that bit's good, and then you put the kitchen at the other end. And if you look at the space that this creates, the first option, that's your open space, that's nice. But here, all of this is open and nice and spacious. Let's have a look at how these things correlate to a real tiny house design. I'm going to put a nice big bathroom. So 900 by 1200. It's kind of your standard acrylic shower tray. Right, so now we also need to make space for the loft, and so the way I like to do that is to add a overhang of some sort for the top. And so what that means is that you've got space for your loft upstairs. You get to maximize this, and then you get a little alcove. In here we've got somewhere to put, gas bottles, gas califont like that. Big couch. And we also need stairs. For this particular client, I'm going to put more of a ladder, not too steep. You could probably walk up that without needing to use your hands. Then we're going to put some lovely big French doors here. Okay, let's look at this again. Here we want a door going into there. Now, I don't like sliding doors. The reason why I don't like sliding doors is because they're hard to lock. You can't hang stuff on the back of them. Now in here we've got a meter meter's actually pretty decent for that. So we could put a wee office right there, with a wee keyboard. But this is this is a sleep out, so that actually probably doesn't work so well. They may not want an office there. I think these clients would rather have storage there. Did you see how open this whole area is? That's what I like about putting things on either end. And you've got a pretty decent kitchen right there too. Like, that's totally functional. And a really big bathroom. And big living. That bed's ridiculously big. There's no way you get a bed that big. Wow. Oh, actually, that's a king-size bed. So I might need to have a look at making this space a bit bigger, but I'm just working on the fly here. So yeah, probably need to do a bit of push and pull to try and make this work out a bit better. But that's okay. The gist of it is coming together. So the third tip that I have for you is cross ventilation. The reason why we need to cool our tiny house down naturally is because they often don't have eaves. Well, this design definitely doesn't have eaves, because we want to be within that external width, and you can't have anything poking out, because otherwise when you're driving down the road it'll hit things and it won't get a warrant. Because we don't have eaves, sun just comes shooting straight in, and in summer that's going to heat the tiny house up a lot. There's also not a lot of air inside a tiny house, so I imagine that they're going to heat up and cool down very quickly. I think it's going to be easy to solve. So we've got the sun is coming in from this way. It's in New Zealand, in the southern hemisphere. Northern hemisphere, the sun comes from the south. We want something down low that's going to pick up the cold air from the south where there's no sunshine. And so the cold air comes in through that window, and then we need a window up over here for the hot air to be released. So as we know, hot air rises, so we let the cold air come into the tiny house, and then that pushes the hot air out through the top. So we need a wee valve to let the heat out and a wee window to let the cool air in. So that's the key thing of cross ventilation. And the other tip that you might see here, the cold air is at one end of the house and the hot air outlet is at the other end of the house. So that means that it's going to go across as much of the tiny house as possible, ideally cooling the whole thing down. So let's go back to my design now, and let's see if we can locate some windows. I want to put a full height window in the south right here, and that is going to be our cold air in. And then we need a window in the bathroom. We want to try and let as much light into that bathroom as we can. Light is lovely in a bathroom. And we've got a window up here, but let's also put a skylight in there. And for simplicity, let's just talk quickly about the roof line. I drew a gable before, so I'm going to stick with that. Let's just dot in a nice skylight right there. So that's going to be hot air out. That window there could be hot air out as well, and that's cold air in. So let's finish this design off. Let's see what it looks like in elevation. Man, that's way out. What am I doing? How big are these doors? That's 3-meter doors. No wonder they look so wrong. What idiot did that? Make sure you do things to scale, because otherwise you'll make mistakes like that, and you'll probably do the opposite. You'll probably draw things too small and think you have way more space than what you actually do. It's a classic. I reckon the skylight would look cool if it was exactly in line with that bathroom window. Trying to line things up where you can helps make things look better. My hand's getting sore from all this drawing. I'm out of practice. hard to see now because of the storm behind it, but you could put you know, a heated towel rail. Actually, that's actually something this design doesn't have, is a laundry. Yeah, this is all quite enclosed, so it wouldn't be hard to put a washing machine here. The other thing that you could easily do, you don't necessarily need it, but you could put a heat pump there. It's a super economical way of heating your tiny house. And it's fairly good at cooling. Oh, actually, what you definitely want to put in here is cabinetry up above here. So this would be 600, that's 600, and then it matches, and then it kind of looks like one whole element. And I think it would be actually probably nicer if you took that right the way up to the top. And just did a full wall of storage, had more cabinets up above, something like that. And then that way the whole thing looks like one wall. But I actually quite like this design. I think it's working out quite well. And then obviously this opens up really nicely onto a big deck. You could probably use it as a TV too, put some kind of data projector thing on there. You could actually also, you could put a wee pop-up dining table right there. That's basically where I got to with the design. There's still some things that I wasn't quite happy with, some things that weren't quite working out, but as a quick sort of concept just to show you the thinking that goes into designing a tiny house, I thought that was hopefully pretty good, hopefully pretty helpful. Yeah, if you like it, give me a like, tell me what you think, and yeah, I might even have a look at changing it to an accessible layout. If you're interested in that, let me know. Thank you so much for watching. My goodness.